Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of PEPTalk, Productive Environment Podcast. We're going to talk today about how to organize your time, space, and information with a flexible system that lasts. I'm Andrea Anderson. I am CEO of Productive Environment Institute here in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, joined by...
I'm Barbara Hemphill, founder of Productive Environment Institute, and I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And we are super excited to talk to you about one of our favorite topics. Again, organize your time, think about your time, space, and information with a flexible system. There's a lot of key words in that title. Flexible system that lasts, right? So that is, I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And what kind of queued up this conversation is Barbara had stumbled on a testimonial she had received from a client from, I don't even know how long ago. Was it a long time ago, Barbara?
Oh, yeah. Over 20 years. Over 20 years.
Over 20 years ago. And when we hear these, we have lots of testimonials from people who have implemented the system. Maybe they heard you speak somewhere and they bought your book, and maybe they were a client, maybe they weren't, but they took action. They took some kind of action with what you teach in the whole taming the paper tiger world, how to get a handle on paper. And now we're in electronic information, email, and all of that as well. But I want to just share what she said, because that's going to really kick off our conversation. So let me bring that up real quick. She said, I am still using the paper filing system I set up after reading Taming the Paper Tiger years ago. It is still working beautifully. Thank you. I also adapted it to my business, and I am proud and relieved that I can always locate what I need quickly. I've been trying to find ways to move away from all of my paper and capture the thousands of bits of info I collect electronically. So the thousands of bits of info, there's electronic information, and then there's also at least hundreds of bits of physical, paper, sticky notes, index cards, all of those things that are sitting around people's desks. And now we have this really cool tool, which we'll talk about in a little while, but you were teaching this years ago, decades ago, about capturing information and putting it into a system where you can find what you need when you need it. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, you know that one of my favorite things to do is to do speeches. I love to give presentations, whether they're virtual presentations or in person. I particularly love in person because I love quality time. And so to be in a room with somebody is just really important to me. And I will tell my husband, oh, I'm going to give a speech. And he'll say, what are you going to talk about? I'll say, how many years have you been married to me? 38, by the way. I've been talking about the same thing for 38 years.
Yeah.
All based on clutter is postponed decisions. And that's it. I mean, 46 years. And so there's a part of me that says, gosh, I must not be very successful if I'm having to work 46 years on the same thing. But the reality is this decision making, and I'll never forget the first time I worked with a client who had actually worked. She told me she'd worked with 3 other organizers in 2 states and paid $10,000, and she was worse off than when she started. And 2 hours into working with me, she was like elated. And I said, so what's different? And she said 2 things. One is, she said, I never understood that my piles of paper were postponed decisions. And the same thing's true of email. I mean, we have clients that have thousands, tens of thousands of emails. They've never thought about the fact that they were postponed decisions. And then the other thing she said was, you didn't tell me what I should do. You asked me what I was willing to do. So in our title, that word you mentioned, Andrea, in the beginning, that title is filled with so many things. And one of them is flexible, because we see organizing as an art form. And the reason what I'm saying will always be appropriate from the platform is, number one, your ability to accomplish any task or goal, personally or professionally, is related to your ability to find the information you need when you need it. That's not going to go away. And not only is it not going away, it's coming at us faster, more furiously, and from more places than ever
Yeah.
before. And then we use the acronym for system of saving you space, time, energy, and money. And as we're doing this, it's the time in the US when we're preparing taxes, right? And how many people are so upset and ask, oh, I got to find all that stuff. And now it's paper and digital, because some of it comes in paper form now. And some of it comes, I mean, many companies now, they won't send it to you anyway, except digitally. So it's more complicated. So now I tell everybody, now is the time to get the system in place. You can't undo the mistakes you made this year. But as you're struggling with it now is the time to put a system in place so that when next year rolls around, it's not a big deal.
Exactly. The system is the key. So interestingly, we've got video of you on the Today Show back in the early 90s. And you were sharing a set of tools that you said every productive office must have, or productive workspace must have. And we talk about that on some of these. We'll have to link some in the description below. But and I think back about those. We'll actually link the video in the description as well. I think back about that when you were on there, and the information coming in was a whole lot less, much less than it is now. And so those tools, we call them the Magic 6. Those tools begin. The first one is a place to capture information, and it's the inbox. It's that boring little basket or box that sits on the corner of your desk, or should sit on the corner of your desk.
Right? And it's most likely full of postponed decisions.
Right. So in that,
pulling it out and saying, "Oh, I don't want to do that today," and putting it back in.
Yeah, that's funny. We have several of our office transformation boot campers that have commented in our current class that's going on right now. They've commented about how it's a good reminder to only look at one thing at a time, because that's what we teach. When you've got a pile of stuff, even your inbox, and you pick the whole pile up and you start flipping through, and you have one or two or three random different things, that's basically, like you said, Barbara, moving the pile of paper from one side of your desk to the other side of your desk. It's not making those decisions. So we always recommend picking up and making that decision, that first, what's the next action on this.
Yeah, and let's just talk here about something one of the myths that there are two kind of organizing myths that I've fought all these 4 decades. One is handle a piece of paper only once. People say, I've had people meet me and say, "Oh, you're one of those handle a piece of paper only once people." I said, "No, I am not." And the reason would be, if you say handle it only once, so let's say you take a pile of papers out of the mailbox or from someplace, and you say, "Oh, I'm going to do it only once. I'm going to do this. This takes 2 minutes. This takes 3 minutes. This takes 5 minutes. Oh, got to go somewhere else." And you don't get to the rest of the pile. And the bottom of the pile is what had the American Express bill. And then you don't go back to it in time. The next thing you know, you're paying a late fee because you don't have it. So that's one. Handle a piece of paper only once to decide what is the next action, and then to put it in our Magic 6. And the second one is a place for everything, and everything in its place. So they always think, "Oh, Barbara, you're naturally organized, and your office must always look organized." Well, Henry's been around enough to know that is not true. But the difference between me and our clients is, number one, I have a level of clutter of which is my max. And in my case, it's 1 week. So I can live with a week's worth of clutter, but then it's time to put it back in the right place, and it must take less than 30 minutes to do it. If it takes longer than 30 minutes to do it, then that means there's something wrong. It means I'm keeping too much. It means there's something about the system that needs to be changed. It means I need to delegate more, dump more, whatever. So that's it. And I told one of my clients years ago that story, and he said, He said, "That's really interesting," because he said, "My wife has relegated me to this downstairs office, which I hate because it's dark because she can't stand my clutter. And he said, if I would clean out my clutter first thing in the morning, it would take me 5 minutes. So he ultimately said, okay, my level of clutter is 1 day and less than 5 minutes to clean it up. So
Yeah.
clutter happens. We all have clutter. But the
Yeah.
question is, do you have a system to recover?
That's right. That's right. And when we work with clients, they start out, they're not at that point yet. They have the mounds of paper and email and everything. So we're clearing out, and we have to clear out the clutter first and then implement the system. And the magic 6 is implemented at the beginning while we're clearing out the clutter.
But the most important thing, so when we do these boot camps, the most important thing is to stop the problem.
Right.
And that's based on our principle of today's mail is tomorrow's pile. So when we're starting, we're going to say, I was talking to an executive yesterday, and immediately he was saying, okay, I've got this file over here. We need to go through that. And I said, no, we don't. Because first of all, research shows that 80% of that you're never going to use anyway. And if we spend the time we have over here, we haven't stopped the problem. So we're going to ignore that and we're going to start over again. And then you stop the problem. So what we tell people in the boot camp is at the end of this boot camp, number one, you will know what to do with every new piece of paper that comes in. So you stop the problem. Secondly, that everything we have filed during the boot camp, you or anyone else you want to will be able to find that information in a matter of seconds. And 3, we'll have a game plan, what we call a productive environment game plan, to address the rest of it. Because in some cases, the clients may have 20, we have a lot of clients have 20 years worth of stuff. They've been professionals, they've gone to school, they've had education records, they've taken courses, and they have decades of stuff. And they have to make a decision about what they're going to do with that. And this is where the art comes in, because we don't say this is what you should do. We say, what do you want to do? What is going to help you? And the ultimate question always is, will this help you accomplish your work or enjoy your life?
Amen. Amen. So how do you stop the problem? I'm going to walk you through a framework that we teach. The very first step is to systemize the capture of information. Okay. So create a consistent method for gathering incoming tasks and ideas, whether they originate from email, handwritten notes, or other sources. I mean, today, I think when you did the Today Show, Barbara, it was maybe mail coming in or a phone call and maybe a conversation and ideas. Now it's all of that plus email, massive amounts of email, plus instant messenger, Facebook Messenger, all these different messenger apps, SMS.
And all the platforms. Like yesterday, I talked to an
platforms.
executive where their company, one of their big issues is their company grows by acquiring other companies. Well, every company that joins has a different platform.
Yes.
So that's the clutter we're seeing corporately as well as individually.
Yeah, exactly. So step 1 is to systemize the capture of information. And if you're watching this and you have no idea where to start, you could start with a notebook. You can say this one notebook, spiral bound because it keeps it all in one place. This one notebook is going to be my capture place for now. I'm going to capture information there. And it could keep it really simple. Now we have an electronic tool that we use that I'll share with you about, but start somewhere. Start and say, okay, let me just, as I'm clearing off my desk and I'm starting to go through things, you need to have a place to capture information, whether it's a to-do. Well, we'll get to that. Once you capture the information, then you want to organize that information. So you're going to sort and categorize what you've collected, what you've captured, right? Ensuring that each piece of information is placed where it can be easily accessed and managed. And really we say there's 3 decisions in our framework that we're dealing with 2. So the 3 decisions, you've collected the information and now you're going to organize the information by, do I need to file this for future reference? Do I need to act on this, or can I toss it? So toss is just, it's not in our SOAR framework. So am I going to file this, or do I need to act on this? Do I need to do something? So and we talked about that, I think on a previous podcast. So we'll link that one below as well, where you went into
I want
detail
to
about how you, go ahead.
I just thought of something about you talking about how more complicated, and you were talking about the Today Show. I
Hmm.
remember on the Today Show, one of the tools I showed was a Rolodex, an old
Hmm.
fashioned Rolodex, because back then you could collect all the names and phone numbers and addresses on a paper Rolodex.
Yeah.
Today, that's not possible. I mean, it's absolutely not possible because in any given day, there are many days when every day I get home 2 or 3 more people. And some days I get 25 more people, contacts that I want in my life. So this is
Yeah.
part of PEI is the tool. And so the tools have changed. The Rolodex is no longer an appropriate tool, except for my husband, who's a Luddite, and he uses the paper one.
Yeah. So like I said, when you watch that video, we'll post it below. You'll recognize, well, depending on how old you are, you may recognize some of these tools. So it's interesting. The form of the tool has changed from,
Mhm.
that's an example, the Rolodex to a CRM today, a customer relationship management system. But all of the tools still exist. The function of the tools are still needed. That's why they're called the Magic Six. And you came up with that after organizing hundreds, if not thousands of people and said, okay, I narrowed it down to these 6 things that everybody needs. So we talked about systemize the capture of information. Let's review. Organize that information, and by action or reference, because if it's tossed, then you've already gotten rid of it, right? It's either you put it in the trash can, the recycle bin, or the shredder. So let's talk about what is action. What does that mean? So action, identify concrete next steps, deadlines, and action dates for all actionable items, making it simple to plan your day, your week, your month, and your year. So if you've got this lots of paper around you and you bring a pile, we always recommend just start with a pile. Don't try to pick up here and then pick up there and pick up there. Get a pile on your desk and then go through it. Is this something I need to collect that information in your inbox or wherever your collection tool is? Is this something I need to act on or save for future reference? And act is an action, like it's something you need to do. You need to call someone, you need to sign something and put it back in the mail, whatever that action is. Okay, you need a
And
place.
and here's the key word you mentioned at the beginning. I'll bring this up again about the significance of one word. Okay, so the one word in this is what is the next action?
Mm-hmm.
So I was at a meeting a few days ago, and one of the gentlemen there said, and I actually invited them. I was presenting. And so one of the things I often do is I hand out an index card and I say, if you sit here and listen to me and you don't do anything as a result of it, you might as well have been playing golf or taking a nap, So I want you to listen about what is the next action you're going to take. And then I invite them to put the date on it and how they like to be communicated with, whether it's email or text or whatever. I said, I'll be your accountability partner. Well, one of the guys gave me his index card and it said, start a podcast. And I said, that doesn't answer the question, what is the next action? Start a podcast is a project. What
Mm-hmm.
is the next? So then we had a conversation. It's like, well, actually, the next action is to choose the platform I'm going to use for that podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you back that even up, it's like, oh, my friend's been doing a podcast for 10 years. I'm going to ask her what she's using. So the next action is call Mary to find out
Yeah.
why she uses that. So we
Yeah.
really want to get it, because often the reason we don't do things, it's the same way we look at a pile of papers. Oh, that's too big. We
Mm-hmm.
have to look at them one at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no way around that unless you just shove it all and get rid of it all. It's either you get rid of it all or you make a decision one piece at a time or one item at a time. So that's really with action. First of all, do I need to take an action? And if so, what is my little Zoom thing? This isn't even Zoom. I didn't even know that did this. I don't know if you guys saw that thumbs up.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like, what is the next action and when? That's what people miss out on. And that's what we really are zeroing in on our office transformation program now is when, because we can make to-do lists for days and days. This could be a whole entire book of to-dos. But
I've gone into offices. I cannot tell you how many offices I've gone. Where literally yellow legal pads, which
Pads.
used to be, there would be piles of them.
Yeah.
And they'd say, oh, I can't throw these away because there are ideas here and there are things I might want to capture.
Mhm.
And one of our principles is you can't change what you don't measure. So part of saying you have to put a date on it is it forces you to say, how
Mhm.
realistic is this? And another one of the myths in our industry that we fight all the time is people think wrongly that if they just got organized, they would be able to do everything, keep everything, have everything. And that is a lie. I mean, it's true for me all the time. I mean, I say to my husband, oh, I have an idea. They'll go, oh, no. Because God created me as to be an idea person. But
Mhm.
one of our principles is you have to give up good to get the best. So
Mhm.
then you say, is this the best action for me to take to accomplish my work and enjoy my life?
Yeah. Yeah, very good. All right, so let's review. Systemize the capture of the information, organize the information into two categories: action, something to do, and when, and reference. Maintain a dedicated space for storing information that must be kept for future reference so you can retrieve it quickly when needed, as well as quick access to other resources in place. Get a little typo there. So yeah, reference. So it's everything that comes into you now, and I challenge you guys challenge us. If we're missing something, let us know. But
I've
everything.
often said, yeah, I've often said to people, and I put this out all the time. If
Mhm,
you have a piece of paper that comes into your life somewhere, I don't care where it is, could be a receipt from the restaurant or whatever, and
mhm,
you're not sure if it doesn't fit in what we call the magic six, let me
mhm.
know,
Yeah,
because I want to hear
yeah,
that, because I've worked with thousands of people now to do that, and every single time it works.
yeah. All of the components of so the first component of the magic six is actually the capturing place, right? That's the capture, and then the others are either an action or a reference. Contact information, that's keep for future reference, right? Your calendar, that's someone to meet or an appointment to have. That's an action, that's a do. So there's different, all of those pieces fit into an action or a reference.
And
And
emails that,
yeah,
I don't think people, I've
exactly.
talked with people, it's like, oh, I never thought of it. But the same thing is true of email. When you get an email, that email is either an action, it's something you need to respond to or schedule a
Um,
meeting or whatever, or it's simply a reference. And
mm,
sometimes that gets complicated because unfortunately we haven't been trained well to do email, which is one of the things that we teach people to do in our boot camps. And
mm,
so when you are sending an email, one of the things to encourage you to do is only put one topic in an email, because if you put multiple in the same email, it's
mhm.
likely that some of those is action and some is
Yeah.
reference. So it helps if you do that.
And I think the same goes for messaging apps too, because if you
Yes,
send a message and you've got three things in there, then the person could easily reply to one, but maybe they're not ready to reply to the other two yet, so they just hold off.
and then
So
they forget,
and then they
and then you
forget.
forget.
I'm guilty of that myself because I'm like, if I look at something that has three things and I'm like, oh yeah, I could reply to that, but let me go ahead and get these other things and reply all together versus if three separate messages, then I could reply individually. So
Exactly.
that's it, guys. I mean, that's let me just systemize the capture of information, organize the information with action or reference. Now, we are not saying that is easy by any means. If you are We've been doing this for years, and we work with people that are very overwhelmed with paper clutter, email clutter, electronic information. We are not saying, oh, just do this and it'll magically be perfect. That is not the case. And that's why we exist. That's why Productive Environment Institute exists. That's why our team of certified productive environment specialists exists, because it's not easy. It's a simple system to learn. You can learn it and you can do it, but it's not easy. It does take time. It does we also deal with emotional issues in this process. Barbara, your whole book, Less Clutter, More Life, is the emotional side
Yeah,
of,
physical and digital
yeah,
clutter is a symptom of emotional and spiritual clutter. I've seen that
yeah.
over and over again. And one of the other things that we we've talked about a lot is that if you do a search on Clutter's postponed decisions, where I've been quoted, many times you will see that people change it by adding an adverb. Clutter is simply postponed decisions, or only postponed decisions, or merely postponed decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you have trouble making decisions, and I would guarantee you that if you have piles of paper or thousands of email, you do have trouble making decisions. Or it may be you don't have trouble making decisions, but it's like, okay, I've decided that I want this, but I don't need it for 6 months. And I don't have a system so that 6 months from now it's going to show up. So it stays in my inbox or on my desk so that it shows up. But if somebody has trouble making decisions and you say, oh, it's just real postponed decisions, then it's like you feel that shame comes back. And there is a lot of shame. My first client, one of my very first clients, had me work in her office in the government in US. I mean, she became an ambassador to the United States. I mean, this was a very smart person. I worked from 6 p.m. to midnight because she didn't want her colleagues to understand how difficult it was for her to make the decisions, and she didn't have a system. So there's a lot of shame with it, which is unfortunate because I was blessed. I'm not naturally an organized person. I've been diagnosed with ADHD. I'm a musician by training. I'm not a business person. I love to start things. I don't like to finish them. I love the big picture, but I don't like the details. So all these systems that we've created have to do with people like me who for whom organizing doesn't come naturally.
That's right. We always have people say, yeah, your system sounds great, but will it work for somebody with ADHD or ADD? I'm like, yes, Barbara created it for self-survival. Yes.
Oh, and I'm so grateful because as I get older, it's harder and harder. One of the reasons we encourage people to do this quickly is because it does involve habits, right? I mean, everything you do involves habits, and it takes a while to create habits. And the older you get, the harder it is. So now my habits are very much in place, and I'm so grateful because it would be hard to learn now. So people always say, how long is this going to take and how much is it going to cost? And the answer is, I'm not sure, because I don't know. Number one, I don't know how quickly you make decisions, which is going to be one thing that's going to impact it. And I'm also not sure what your particular needs are, because our systems are about flexibility so that it's addressing what you will do. But what I can tell you for absolute sure is the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take and the more it's going to cost in lost opportunities.
Yep, exactly. I want to share a couple of comments before we wrap up. So Kathy Music, New Path Productivity, she's one of our specialists, is critical to decide what is next. We easily get overwhelmed looking at everything associated with a project or task. Exactly. And that is exactly why we created the tool that we have, because it helps you big picture and then drill down to the details. And we have a comment here from Jim. Hi, Jim. He said, I've been using Paper Tiger for decades since I discovered Barbara. What system to save files electronically? I'll show you that in just a second. And then he said, I know I have tons of paper that I don't need. You are not alone, Jim. You are not alone. So yeah, let me jump back over here as we wrap up. I just want to, so if you know the acronym we just spelled out was, systemize the capture, organize, action, reference. That spells SOAR. And our program, we actually created, based on Barbara's methodology, something called the SOAR board. And it's a strategic productivity tool designed to help you capture, organize, and act on both physical and digital information, while also providing a reliable system for future reference. It encompasses all of it, so all in one place. And so with the SOAR board, you have a clear, adaptable system that helps you manage every aspect of your life, ensuring nothing falls through the cracks, and you can find anything you file or store in seconds. And I love now saying that it can help you find anything online and on paper in seconds, because we not only index your digital world, but also your physical files and your physical filing cabinet. So it is a tool. If you Google it, you won't find anything about it. It's literally something that has evolved over time in our boot camp. So if you want to learn more, you can go to our webinar, productiveenvironment.com/webinar, and you can watch our webinar there, and then you'll you can start getting information. You can send a message if you just want to send a message. In fact, there's a contact button on that page. Just send a message and say, curious about Soarboard. That's probably the easiest way at this point, because literally it's evolved and it's not packaged up and we're selling it. Only our clients and our boot camps currently have access to it. But if you're curious about it and you want to know more, watch our webinar and then send us a message and say, I'd like to learn more about the Soarboard. All right. So I think that is it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, like I said, go to that website right there on the screen, productivenvironment.com/webinar, and click the contact button to get in touch. And
don't forget that asking for help is a sign of wisdom.
That's
not
right.
weakness.
Not weakness. That's right. Ask for help. You're not alone. We wouldn't exist if this wasn't an issue for thousands and thousands of people. So again, we've given you the framework. People have read Barbara's book, as that person that we shared at the beginning. She read the book and implemented the system. Most people don't do that. Most people need the guidance, the support, the help, and we guide you every step along the way. And not even just learning the system. The boot camps cover the learning the system and setting the system up in your space. Beyond that, it's the habits, as you just mentioned. It's the systems, the routines, and the habits. And we work together to continue making progress. So that is what we love to do. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.